Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stash Project. This is a Stash report for the January 2018 kit releases. For everybody who's new to the channel, I know we got a whole bunch of new people following along after we joined up with the Big Rig group build. Welcome, first of all, to the channel. For people who have not watched the videos on this channel or are not familiar with the channel, basically because we haven't done a whole heck of a lot of building here, so I know that we're not followed by a lot of the people who, follow people who actually do building. It's a long, convoluted way of saying I don't get a lot much done. So you may have never watched this channel for the news side of this channel before. And I understand that sometimes watching some guy read something to you is not the most thrilling thing in the world. But that being said, we do this type of video once a month at the very beginning of the month. And what we're going to do is tell you all about the kits that are supposed to be released this month. I say supposed to be because, of course, things get delayed, things get shelved for one reason or another, and they don't get released. But if you watch our more or less weekly, because sometimes it's bi-weekly, sometimes it's monthly, depends on what my real life is like. If you watch the weekly show that we do every weekend, we'll talk about every single kit that gets released or reissued or whatever as they come up. So, again, this is January 2018. We're starting off the new year with the first month of kits. We call this, by the way, if you're new to the show, the Notebook of Knowledge, which of course is just me writing down everything so I can read it to you. But like I said, we'll cover all the expected kit releases for this month. Starting on the domestic side of things, we'd like to give you guys that are not into import cars the ability to opt out and not watch the rest of the video. You have kits coming out of Round 2 and Revell this month. The Round 2 stuff is going to be from AMT and Polar Lights. The Polar Lights is going to be a reissue of the 2006 Ford GT. That is a snap-tight kit, but it's full detail, if you will. It's not real basic like a Revell Wheels of Fire thing. It does have an engine. It does have a more detailed interior than you would normally find in a snap-tight kit. This is going to be molded in like a baby blue because it's supposed to represent a Golf Heritage Edition paint job, which of course is referencing the old Golf livery from the Le Mans era, where it's a blue and an orange. From the looks of the decal sheet that we've seen released, you're going to get most of the striping is going to be provided for you as far as the orange part goes and the Golf logos and things like that. And then they're going to include a paint mask to mask off the rest of the car to paint the rest of the orange. That, of course, always leads to the problem of matching the orange, the decal and the paint. Hopefully, it's closer to the Tamiya orange than anything else, because Tamiya, of course, or Tamiya, I should say, I'm pronouncing it wrong. Tamiya has done an orange that is like a McLaren orange, similar to the Golf colors. So, if you want to have it look completely right, you might have to mask off all the stripes and paint them. Or maybe it'll match the decals. I don't know. It's going to be one of those things where you need to take a spoon test with some oranges and see what you can get to closely match the paint, the decal color. On the AMT side of things, getting a reissue of probably one of a lot of people's favorite kits. I know this is one of Dr. Cranky's favorite kits, at least. It's the 1950 Chevy pickup truck. This is going to be reissued as a Union 76 shop truck. People may recall this was done 5 years ago or so as the Texaco shop truck. This time they're adding signboards for the side of the bed. I'm looking up at mine, so that's why I'm off camera. It has signboards on the that are going to add above the bed to sort of give a little more advertising space. It has a push bumper and like an amber beacon and a few other things that were tooled up when they reissued the kit as the Texaco shop truck that you may not have seen if you've never bought one of the new versions. You only have the 1990s original new tool version of it. So all those parts will be back inside of it, and of course it has the new Union 76 tie-in, so there's new decals with that, and they're including pad-printed wide white walls with it, which I don't believe the Texaco truck has. I didn't take it down and look. I meant to, but I don't think there were pad-printed wide whites in that. Although they're not pad-printed wide whites on the box art either, so I mean they're there for that truck, or you can probably swap them out to something else. You're going to get a reissue of the Plymouth GTX hardtop, the 1969. Again, that's a newer tooling from the 1990s, early 1990s from AMT Ertl. This is going to have a Dirty Donnie tie-in. They've done that with the Van, the Fantasy, the Chevy Van reissue. They also did one for the Super Bee had that as well. Basically, getting a bunch of decals tossed in that he did. I saw somebody the other day describing them as $5 rub-on tattoos. Your opinion of Dirty Donnie's artwork may vary. It's going to be molded in black, which of course has caused a lot of belching and aching. You know, you have to understand that, especially with these kind of reissues where it's a branded reissue, they're not marketing it really to the serious hobbyist who has 1,000 kits or anything else like that. They're marketing it to the guy who's going to Hobby Lobby on the weekend and is like, oh, cool, look, it's got this weird 1960s vibe, vintage vibe, and they're going to, paint it black and do the Dirty Donnie thing with it. It's going to have all the optional parts, which of course is, for some reason, and I'm not sure why, the GTX has always had half of the Plymouth Roadrunners Chrome runners in it, or maybe all of the Plymouth Chrome runners in it. I know there's some accuracy issues with the kit and all that sort of thing, none of which will probably be fixed, chances are, since there's no mention of any changes to the body tooling or anything else like that. So, buyer beware on that. And then they're going to reissue, once again, the Peterbilt 352 Pacemaker. That, of course, is a Class 8 tractor. Almost a tractor trailer, but you're not getting a trailer. You're just getting the tractor. This was reissued, I think it was 2009 or 2010. And then they did a limited reissue of that original reissue here last year, actually the beginning of this year. That was a very quiet, silent. We didn't mention it on the show because it was sort of like a stock fill. It wasn't like they reissued it. It was basically just to put it back in the store. So this one is going to have a Coca-Cola tie-in to it. It's still going to be molded in white. And the big shtick here is, of course, it has a whole decal sheet full of Coca-Cola logos. The one sort of the neat thing, I guess, about the Coca-Cola decal sheet is it does offer a variety of Coca-Cola logos from back in the 1960s, 1950s, at least that's what the feel is, all the way up through present day, which gives you that weird 1980s Coca-Cola logos and stuff like that. If you have the idea to do some Coca-Cola stuff that is not related to the kits that are marketed by Round 2 as Coca-Cola stuff, it may be worth it for the decal sheet if you just wanted the kit, because depending on, your hobby shop and where you get your models from, if you don't have a local hobby shop, you may not be able to get the 352 reissue at a reasonable price, and this one is not going to be any more expensive with the Coca-Cola livery, so, that option is available to you. Over at Revell, basically, you're going to get part of what was supposed to come out last month before Christmas, but that never did. So on January right now, this may change because it changed last month at the last minute. Is the Baja Bronco, which of course is the strobe flavored kit. Basically, it's the dealer version of the strobe Bronco. It's not the off-road racing thing. It's the one is like a factory stock thing they sold through the dealership. So like new wheels. It has a new body, by the way, because all of the over fenders, such as they are molded in. At least it looks that way on the instruction sheet. Then those over fenders are not in the base model Bronco that they put out last year. So, I mean, if you're looking for a Bronco kit with some, add-on fenders, and you didn't want to go Fireball resins or something like that, and buy the ones that you would have to put onto the body, I mean, this will give you that option, I guess. But basically, that's going to be the thing. The new body tool, at least it's not a new body tool. It's new side inserts for the body tool that have the fenders on them, and then it has another set of wheels in it. There may be a few other little pieces here and there, but it's not a big off-road race thing. Sorry. Then you're going to get a reissue of the 1978 GMC 4x4. They're calling this the Country Hunter version or something like that. This is the old Monogram High Rollers kit, so it's a big, not monster truck, but it's jacked up 4x4. They did, I looked at the instructions for this the other day, they did actually put the gun rack in it, which is kind of surprising, because usually that sort of thing has been sort of taken out of models. You don't get the last several reissues of various police car kits that had weapons in them in the past have not had weapons in them anymore, because giving kids a 1/25th scale Remington shotgun is going to turn them into violent criminals. So it's kind of interesting that there are deer rifles on a window rack coming with this kit. They're not molded in. You can choose to add them or not. The one thing about this box art, and we all sort of saw and looked at, was kind of weird, was it was a camo box art. And I was like, for the average car builder, they're not going to be able to do a camo pattern because that's really, there's some technique to that. That's an IPMS kind of thing. You have to go find your buddy who builds ground attack vehicles and be like, hey, so how do I mask off a truck to build the camo? But looking at the instructions, the camo pattern is on the decal sheet. So basically, you just need to paint a base color and then add the camo to it. I have a can of olive drab Tamiya spray paint that I had bought actually to build a military Jeep. So, I don't know, maybe I'll do the camo pattern, because this is one of the kits that they're doing right now that I do want to pick up, is this old High Roller GMC, because I don't have any other 1970s GM pickups. I did not buy the one with a plow, and so I'm interested in this 4x4. And then the last thing we're going to get automotive-wise out of Revell, there are some aircraft and ground vehicles and stuff like that. The last automotive vehicle we're going to get is the U.S. distribution of the Porsche Panamera 2. This is the new Revell of Germany kit, representing, of course, the four-door Porsche. That kit has been rightfully savaged on several internet forums due to the fact that the back end of the car, pretty much from the C-pillar back, is a disaster. It's got, at least from the first run of these kits, it's got sink marks on the roof, it's got sink marks on the rear spoiler, it's got sink marks on the rear deck, it's got sink marks on the rear quarter panels, and they're not like, oh, we could hide that under some primer. No, I mean, they're sink marks. And then recently, somebody realized that the Porsche Panamera is one of those, higher-end cars, and you may have this in your own vehicle if you have a newer, I should say, SUV, or even like some full-size cars have been coming with these backup sensors. They beep. It's a radar system. And do-do-do-do-do when you get real close to something when you're backing up, or when something crosses your path, like on a sidewalk or something like that. For some reason, it only has one of those, and there's at least two of them, one on each side of the bumper, but they didn't tool the one on the passenger side for some reason. So, it's one of those things where the kits have been tooled in China and then produced in Poland. I don't know that this is factually true, but the rumor was that this was tooled in Poland too, which, all Polak jokes aside, they seem to understand what they're doing over there, at least in terms of the mold facilities. So I don't know why it's so sink marky. Even if they designed the kit and somebody goofed up and left the parking sensor off, why is it so sinky? They know how to make kits in Poland. Germany's been doing their kits in Poland now for a decade at least. So I really, really, really wanted the Panamera because it's a four-door Porsche. I know it's not a very inspiring choice to a lot of people. They're like, oh, why isn't it a 911? Look, I'd take 10 911s, if it was given the choice. But the Panamera is sort of that weirdly cool car. If you, were to come over to the stash here and look through my collection of stuff, you would see weirdly cool cars. Citroens and other French cars and Opel Admirals and this, Alfa Romeo Porsche conversion and stuff like that. Or Alfa Romeo Mazda conversion, I should say. I like the eclectic in my, models. So the Panamera is one of those eclectic cars. I don't really feel like doing all that body work. There's so many other things in life to build, to be fighting with that kind of thing. It's one thing if it's like a reissue of a 1970s kit, and it is what it is. But for a 2017 kit to be suffering with the body errors that this, not errors, but the molding issues, molding errors with the, really is a downer to me. So, at any rate, guys, that's the domestic stuff. If you want to opt out, go ahead. If you want to hang on for the rest of it, so here's the stuff from overseas. From Fujimi, going to get a bunch of reissues this month. Reissue of the 95 Acura Integra Type R and the 95 Civic Type R. These were last on in the Toge Mountain Pass series. These are getting reboxed into the Real Sport. So same kits, same models. Just you're gonna lose all of the decals from the Toge stuff, and and they're gonna be more factory stock than they were before, I guess, because the Toge series, you got to sticker bomb them, for lack of a better term. Reissue of the R34 Skyline kit. This is the Snap-Tight kit we've talked about a number of times. This is going to have the big nameplate thing that Fujimi has started doing for the Skyline anniversary. Also, reissue of the R32 Skyline, again with the nameplate thing. Then 2 reissues of the Toyota Estima, which is what we got here is the Previa. Or maybe it was actually the next van after that. But we did get a version of the Estima here. And they're going to be a police transport van and a fire department public relations van. I assume that they're technically speaking like real things. Although both of them have the same warning that they did with the Nissan March that got done up as an EMS car, with it being like, you know, due to the limitations of the mold, may not represent car accurately. Basically, we didn't tool up anything new for this. We're just throwing some decals in a box and hope you buy it. And then one kit that's kind of an interesting reissue because it hasn't been out for quite a while is their BMW M635, or M6. This is the Enthusiast Series kit, and the Enthusiast Series 6 hasn't been out 10 years. I want to say 2002, 2004, somewhere in that neighborhood is the last time this thing was reissued. You know, Tamiya, of course, has one that's full detail as well, and a little less parts than the Fujimi one has. But that kit hasn't been reissued probably, I think that kit has been reissued one time since 1988. But it's not been reissued recently. So if you're looking to build that 1980s M6, because really the Monogram kit builds a regular 635, not the M6. Be nice to see if they reissue the Hardage and the, I'm trying to think what the other one is. I have it. I can't look behind me anymore because it's over there now. There's Alpina. There's an Alpina and a Hardage version. There's to see if they end up doing those as well. But again, this kit hasn't been reissued for a while. And it is, again, Enthusiast Series kit, so it's a gajillion parts. Over at Hasegawa, they're going to reissue their Honda Civic Sear 2. This is the 3-door kit from the 1990s. This has been reissued at least twice in the last 2 years. So it's just basically a restock. Also reissuing their Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 4, which again is another kit that's been reissued 2 or 3 times in the last 5 years. So that's just a restock. They're going to reissue their Mazda 767B in the Finish Line livery. They're going to reissue their Toyota 2000 GT as the 1967 500 kilometers of Suzuka race winning car. They're going to reissue the BMW 318i Japanese Touring Car Championship in the Sogo Security livery. That is the car, if you're into 318i's, it is the one race car kit they have never, or not never, but, well, it may be never, but they did not reissue when they reissued all of those 318i's right here, all of the BTCC and the JTCC cars that they reissued now about 2.5 years ago. This one was not done at that time. I don't know if that's a licensing thing, or maybe they didn't think it would be a popular enough seller to justify. But now they're going to reissue that, which is basically just like these kits. It just has a different set of decals. It's the black and white car, if you've ever seen it. So that hopefully means that we'll see some of the other Honda Civics and Toyota Levins that were done reissued, if they're really going to reissue every single version of them. Because you have a couple of the 3-door Civics and a couple of the 4-door Civic race cars that were done that do not share the same wheels as the kits that have been reissued in the last 18 months. So it'd be nice to have those back, especially the 3-door one that has the Enki racing wheels, because there are a number of liveries that have been reproduced for that kit when it was announced, but they did not issue the correct wheels to build them. So the only real solution to that was Zumon Resins had done a reproduction of that wheel, but it's been sold out for almost 2 years now. They keep saying they're going to restock it, and then they do restock it, and it sells out instantaneously. I need, like, I could use about 4 sets of those wheels, and I would buy all 4 sets of them if I could find, if they'd reissue them and give everybody some warning that they're coming back out. And then last but not least, a reissue of the Zaxpeed ZK891 F1 car. This is a unique model in the fact that it is a 1/24th scale F1 car. It is historically significant to the Japanese, people, like the whole country gives a crap. But it's historically significant within the Japanese racing modeling culture because it represents one of the, I'm trying to go, who raced it? I have it written down somewhere on one of the other ones. The Aguri Suzuki race team. This was a really, really crappy F1 car in real life. I don't know what the model's like, but the real one-to-one car was an abject failure. It was a Lamborghini-powered car due to the fact that the last version of it, the one previous to the one that's being modeled, stunk on ice so bad it had to pre-qualify to qualify, and it only successfully ever qualified for one race during the entire F1 season that year, and it didn't finish the race. Aguri Suzuki never even raced the car because he never pre-qualified it. So it is a unique piece of F1 history in the sense that it represents probably the most abject failure of any F1 car in recent memory. Aguri Suzuki, of course, did end up racing, I think it was a Lola the next year, right? A Lola, yeah. And they did win a race with that car, and or at least podium to race with that car. And sort of, I believe he won the race at Suzuka, the racetrack in Japan. And sort of cemented his legacy as a Japanese hero because he won a F1 race in Japan. Actually, he did win that race because I remember reading the history of this because I can't remember who finished second and third, but it was the first time in like 40 years that the podium at an F1 race had no European drivers on it. It was all Japanese and like South American drivers. So that being said, 124 scale F1 car can be an itty bitty little thing because if you've ever seen a 120th scale F1 car, they're about the size of a 125th scale regular car because F1 cars are tiny to begin with. So it'd be interesting to see if they're going to bring out the entire 124 scale line that they had, because they did have a couple of Ferraris in the 124 scale. They also had a couple of Indy cars in the 124 scale, all done during that craze when even AMT and Monogram were doing Indy cars. It's about that genre, late 1980s, as far as what the age of the kit is. Like I said, they're doing the other car. The Lola is going to come out in February because Aguri Suzuki still, to this day, is very active in motorsports. He has a couple of teams in Super GT, both in the GT3 level and what would normally be a GT1 level if that race, grouping still existed. He has won the Super GT Championship with his teams. I think the last time was 2008. But his cars always really, really run well. He had his own F1 team for a while. He had a Formula E team that he recently sold. So he's very active, as an owner, more so than he was a driver. He won some races as a driver, but he's been a much more successful owner than a driver. So, being that that's a popular guy in Japan, they're reissuing these kits. So I said, it'd be interesting to see if they do all of them or just his cars or what. And then over at Aoshima, no Tamiya kits this month and no BMAX kits this month. You have in the tuned model car lineup, you have a reissue of the 1985 Truno in the car boutique trim, if you will. It's a bunch of, aero package and a different set of wheels from a factory stock one. There's no engine in that kit. Reissue of the 1990 Nissan Safari Wonder. That is the D1 Grand Prix car with none of the D1 livery in it. It's just the all of the, again, aero package and wheels and stuff like that went to that kit back in the day. Most of the D1 Grand Prix cars have been reissued just regularly. The Urace Skyline is one of those. They just reissued a couple of, it might have been last month or the month before. The, let's see, was back in, I want to say, October. I lose track of my time very quickly. They're either or they're going to reissue. Anyway, they're going to be doing one of the Toyota Chasers that was a D1 Grand Prix car, or they did. And then on the model car lineup side of things, they've dumped off the Toyota Celsior, which was announced a little while ago as being buildable either as an early model or a late model, and it's been rescheduled for March, only as a late model. So, I don't know. We'll see what... I guess something about the early model isn't in the tooling anymore, or what the deal is there, but it was rescheduled. It was only a one version. But the stuff that's still coming out will be the 1981 Toyota Soarer 2800 GT Extra/VX. These again will be two different models that are being combined into one box. You got to pick an option if you're not familiar. You can't build two cars, just one or the other. And then a reissue of the 1968 Austin FX4 London Taxi. This is that weird IMA kit that they shove out the door every so often, labeled as 1/24 scale, but it's more like 1/22 and a half scale, if not like 1/20th scale. It is a formerly motorized car. It does have some weird top half engine detail, but it's so unproportional compared to anything else that unless you really want one of those 1960s Austin taxi cabs, I can't recommend the kit. Either in the actual content of the kit and the way it builds up, or the fact that it won't be the same scale as anything else you built. I know there's a lot of people out there that have an issue with the 1/24 versus 1/25 scale thing. If you think that is too big of an issue, wait till you buy a 1/24 scale kit that's even bigger than that. The 1/20th scale kits that Round 2 has been reissued. That are old Lindbergh kits have been getting all the hate online all over again because they're the old scale. Well, this is the wrong scale, and it's not even labeled the right way, so know that going in. There have been many people who bought that London taxi thinking they're going to pair it with like the London double-decker bus that Revell of Germany did, and find out that the car is half the size of the bus, so be aware. They're going to reissue 20, let's see here, I guess it's 4 sets. I have this little scribble right here from my kids, so I make sure that if I didn't scribble that out myself. 20-inch wheel sets would be 4 of these. They are the Graham Light R57 GTs, the OS Model F7s, the Volk Racing VRG2s, and the Blitz Profile 09s. 24 sets of 20-inch wheels that have not been reissued recently, but Google if you want to know what they are, because we'll show you box pictures when they come out, but I'm not going to go into like the wheels themselves. And then there's a bunch of basically restocks. These are all going to be kits that are just being reissued to put them back out into distribution. And they are the 1979 Toyota Corolla GT DX kit. That is one of those kits, again, that can be built one way or the other. The 1978 Gloria Cedric 280E Brougham kit. That was just reissued in the model car lineup. That was one of those things that used to be separate kits. Now you get the choice to build either a Cedric or a Brougham, depending on what parts you use. Reissue of the Top Secret S15 Sylvia. Reissue of the 19-inch SSR Professor SP1s, SP3s, and MS3s. Always a welcome wheel to the modifiers out there. Everybody loves using the Professor wheels. Reissue the Brian James trailer. I don't think I got reissued the last time they said it was going to be reissued, so we're going to see if it comes out again. Reissue of the Walter Wolf version 1 Lamborghini Countach kit. Reissue of the Pagani Huayra. Reissue of the Lamborghini Countach photo etch. The Lamborghini Countach photo etch is not a universal photo etch set. It is designed to be used with their LP400, the very, very base, this green one, very, very base model, original Lamborghini Countach. It's not designed to be used with the 5000 Quattrofoils. It's not designed to be used with the Walter Wolf kit. I'm not exactly sure why they reissue it whenever they reissue a Countach kit, since technically speaking, most of it you can't even use on any of the other ones. And they're also going to reissue their Lamborghini Aventador photo etch. That is a must-have, if you will, if you're going to build one of the Aventador coupes, because the Aventador coupes, if you're not familiar with the Aoshima kit, has clear parts and decals where the mesh should be. Go spend the $12.80 on the photo etch set so that your model doesn't look like ass. Reissue of the Liberty Walk Hakusuku Shakaten Kanji Choice. This is the 4-door 1969 or 71, I think it is. Somewhere in that age bracket. It's the original first-gen Nissan Skyline 4-door that is done as a Japanese Grand Prix race car. Inspired by. It's not really the race car kit. It's just their sort of take on a race car kit with giant over fenders and everything else you'd expect from a Liberty Walk kit. That's just, again, a reissue. And then they're going to reissue a couple of pre-paints, and one of which is the Lamborghini Aventador. Going to be the pre-paint in the metallic orange and a pre-paint in the white. And then last but not least in this video is going to be a reissue of the Nissan Silvia S15 Spec R, which is the S15 Silvia with a little more aggressive bumpers. And that is going to be reissued either in the Brilliant Blue or the Sparkling Silver pre-paints. If you're new to this channel and you're like, ooh, pre-paints, be aware that much like the Revell pre-paints, they do not take the mold lines off the body. They just paint the body as it comes out of the molds. However, unlike the Revell pre-paints, the entire kit is pre-painted. You know, a lot of the Revell pre-paints, well, I said Revell. What are the Revell pre-paints? Y'all, you know, the Revell pre-paints, as you know, are only body paint, right? The rest of the kit is unpainted, and you have to paint the rest of it. The Aoshima pre-paints are pre-painted model kits. Every bit of it, including the window black, the chassis, the wheels, the tires. Well, not the tires, but the undercarriage, the interior. Every part of it is painted, which means there's mold lines on every part of everything. So keep that in mind when you get those. They're fun weekend projects. Great kits for a display cabinet. Obviously, you're not going to take any of those and do competition models with them because you'd have to basically strip the paint off of it to get all the body cleaned up and then repaint it, in which case you might as well just buy the stupid unpainted kit and be done with it. Not the unpainted kit is stupid, I'm just saying, you know, it's not a viable kit to build and be like, you know, really, you know, spent 100 hours building this kit because it's a weekend build. They're fun for that. If you've never built a Lamborghini, an Aoshima, you know, Lamborghini, you know, the pre-paint one, it's all painted for you. Just cut everything off the sprue, touch up a couple of attachment points here and there, and glue it together, and you have a model kit. So, guys, I believe that is it for this video. Want to welcome again all the new subscribers, and hopefully you find the news portion of this video series, this channel, helpful to you. And now you know what you're going to spend your money on for the month of January, and we'll see you guys on the other side.